Alright, got our 100k Stamblade here. I had mentioned doing this a very long time ago, and I have finally gotten to it. I've tested a ton of things out, and after taking a long break from this game doing all of this, I am finally here with the build. We're going to go over this pretty quickly. I don't want to take up too much of your guys' time. I'm going to try and condense this as much as possible. Let's start with going over the abilities here. We have Killer's Blade. This is our execute. I'd use this around like 35, 30-ish%. I usually personally try to use it around 32 to 30%. That's when I believe it is most effective, and you can stop using your spammable here, surprise attack. They nerfed the magic version of this. You don't really get the damage buff, I don't think, anymore. Unfortunately, and I think they are about to nerf Magblade again, so but I don't think that should affect this build. I think that'll only affect my Magblade, but I already need to make an updated video on that. Camouflage Hunter, I mean, this one's pretty obvious. The Minor Savagery and Prophecy, and obviously the Minor Berserk, and the weapon damage increase from the skill line of the Fighters Guild. Deadly Cloak, we are running dual wield on the front bar. So Deadly Cloak, we are not running it on the back bar, so gotta run Deadly Cloak on the front bar. It is a really good dot. It's doing around like I think 4.2k damage per second, so definitely want to have that slotted. Merciless Resolve, this one's an obvious one. It's one of the Nightblade's best damage abilities. This runs around, well, it can get some pretty high damage per second. You could get anywhere from, depending on how efficient you are, like 7 to 10 to maybe even 11k. Flawless Dawnbreaker, we have the slot on the front bar instead of in cap, mainly just for the weapon damage. We have in cap on the back bar. I hope that's in cap. That didn't look like in cap for a second. We have in cap on the back bar. Yeah, this is mainly just slotted. I don't really use this in my parses, so yeah, we have in cap on the back bar, which when I use in cap, I usually use in cap into a bar swap, so then I can immediately hit a charged up Merciless Resolve, so keep that in mind. Otherwise, Dark Shade, Twisting Path, I run this on my Magblade. If you saw my Magblade video as well, these abilities just do so much damage. I will be showing a couple parses, so just have to run them, really. Barb Trap, this one's pretty self-explanatory too. I mean, very good damage over time, even after I think Hemorrhaging got nerfed a bit. Also increases weapon damage, so it's just good to have. Camouflage Hunter on the back bar, just for increased passive damage. And Stampede. Now, the reason we're running Stampede is because we are running the Maelstrom's Greatsword on the back bar. This is just what I found through my testing to do the most damage and help increase our overall damage just in general to surpass 100k. As for the sets we're running Pillar on Jewelries and Weapon. Still a great set even after the nerf. There might be an argument that Aegis is better. I don't have that set currently, so I can't try it. I think Aegis might provide maybe like 1k additional DPS. There's been some testing. I saw a short video. I didn't really go too in depth into the video, so maybe consider running Aegis here for some additional damage. Like I said, I haven't been able to test it out yet, but keep that in mind. Otherwise, Pillar is still a good choice, and this build will still get you above 100k. Reliquins, I pretty much run this in all my damage builds. It is just really, really good. Now, Perfected Reliquins would be better here, unlike on the two videos I made previously where it didn't matter because we were running mag builds. I cannot be bothered, at least right now, to go out of my way to get Perfected Reliquins, but even without it, I'm still hitting over 100k DPS, so it's not necessarily needed. We got Zons. I did gold out the Zons just to try to see if that would help improve the damage a little bit. I mean, it does a tiny bit, but it's not needed to hit 100k DPS, and we are running Zons here. I did not test Kjolnar's, but Zons usually just outperforms Kjolnar's, and only one person can wear Kjolnar's if you're actually doing actual content anyways, so I would just recommend using Zons here. That's what I got for this setup. Let's hop into a parse. I'm going to show you this parse. Now, it says only 88k, but I had an internet drop off. As you can see, my internet just cut out for about 15 seconds, kind of destroyed the parse. But to go over it real quick, this was the best parse I've done. Now I have like a muscle and hand issue that can make playing this game hard sometimes, so this is definitely the best parse I've done, coming out strong with 100 all the way up to 120k DPS. Kind of fell off there for a second, but then I bring it back and we sit around 97 to 100k pretty consistently throughout the whole thing until my DPS falls off. I bet in execute I probably would have got up to about 105k DPS on this parse. So even without execute, if you're doing everything right, you can hit 100k DPS. Look at my weave time wasn't even at my best. My best is 0.02. You don't even have to have the craziest weave time. You just have to have some pretty solid weave time. If you're struggling with weave, all I could say is it's just practice makes perfect. You just got to figure it out. As for our champion points, you can see them here. Most of these are pretty self-explanatory, I feel like. Champion points, there's not really too much different for most characters and most builds on this game. Our weapon damage sits pretty high. Well, this is still the 88k, so let's actually swap over to our 101k. Weapon damage sits a little bit higher. You see our top abilities, Merciless Resolve. This was pretty low, actually, 25. You should be able to hit more like, I think I did the math, in 3 minutes and 30 seconds, you should be able to hit more like 36, so definitely did not do my best here, so keep that in mind. Like, my damage is limited, so this build has a lot more potential than I make it look. Arms are Eloquent, obviously, just a very high performing set. Light attacks, pretty self-explanatory. Twisting Path is pretty good. These are both Zons, does pretty good. Stampede, Deadly Cloak, they do okay. But overall, this is just what I found has worked best to get a pretty easy 100k. We can go over the graph here. Kind of more sit around. I mean, even here I was doing pretty good, but because of my muscle issues, sometimes it can make it hard to do these parses, so it starts falling off and was sitting more around 95k until execute. I did try this out in a couple dungeons. We can check here. Let's pull up this dungeon. This was on the final boss of a dungeon here. I was doing 53k out of 74k, doing 72%, and there was actually 3 DPSs, so this build hits pretty hard in dungeons. I mean, you can see the weapon damage. We're still hitting about the same weapon damage, if not higher. And even on the Trials dummy parse that I was showing, you're gonna get further buffed in an actual trial. Like, this is like bare minimum. Like in an actual trial with a very well communicated team, you're probably gonna be hitting like 120k DPS. So this build is very, very strong. We'll go over our foods here and our other consumables. We are using Essence of Weapon Power potions to keep that major brutality and for weapon damage, which means you're definitely going to need medicinal use, which if your alchemy is at 0, to max it out, buying cheap ingredients, I think I bought Dragon Thorn and Wormwood. I think in total it'll cost you about 250k gold to get it to 50, because you'll have to keep buying like the higher level solvents, because that'll give you more XP as you craft. So you'll need some skill points to juggle around so you can keep getting additional XP from crafting higher level potions. But 250k roughly, it's not too much gold. It can be too much for some, so just work your best at it. Try and get this to level 3. That way you have 100% uptime on your potions. For food, we run Lavafoot and Soup and Sultrice. For Trials dummies and actual content, maybe consider just a max health, max stam like Pack Leader's Bone Broth, which is also a pretty cheap food. Both of these are relatively cheap. They won't run you a ton of gold. They last a long time. This is pretty damn good for parses. And if you are really good at not taking damage and dodging attacks and just have better survivability, you could run this in an actual trial as well, just to try and get max efficiency with your damage. Otherwise, I definitely run this so you can have that additional health, so it can be a bit more forgiving. One thing I did forget to go over is sustain on this build is not a problem whatsoever. We are, let's see, we were regaining 1438 for every 1444 we were using. I mean, you're pretty much losing almost no stamina, and any stamina you do lose, especially in trials, you'll be able to interact with other people's abilities to regain some of your stamina and some of your stuff back. On this build, it was even better. I mean, we were regaining way more than we were losing, and this was the one where we were pretty much hitting almost 100k consistently throughout the whole parse before my internet fell off. So this build is really good for damage. This is probably my best damage character now, and I used to be horrible at making stamina characters good, so this is my first stam character I've actually been able to get to this high of DPS, and now it happens to be probably my best damage character. This character has the least amount of sustain issues I've ever had on a character as well. Part of that is probably because I'm running Wood Elf. This character isn't completely min-max. Feel free to min-max and run something like Dark Elf or whatever else you need to run if you really want to try and get maximum damage. Otherwise, this is more than suitable. And if I can hit 100k DPS on this character, I'm sure some of you guys could probably even hit way higher than that. Like I said, I have issues that make this harder, and I mishit buttons and, you know, all these muscle issues. So if you don't have those muscle issues and you're very efficient, I could see this character maybe even hitting up to 110k DPS just outright consistently as well. So I could be wrong about that, but that's what I'm going to assume. This build is pretty solid. It performs amazing in dungeons. I pretty much do 70% of the damage. I pretty much outperform almost any other DPS with this build. Very satisfied with it, and it's very fun. I love Night Blades. They're extremely fun to do, or to use. But yeah, that's all. Just a real quick video. I know it's been a while. I plan on doing one for my Arcanist and probably updating my Mag Blade because things have changed. But hope you guys enjoyed, and hope you guys like the build, and definitely keep it in mind. Feel free to alter it however you want. I'm sure some of you guys could make even better versions of this build to get to those really high damages like 110, 120, 130. Feel free. 100k is enough for me, and if you're struggling to hit even past 50, 60, or 70, I mean 100, I mean really 60k is all you need. But if you want to go that above and beyond and you're struggling to hit 100k DPS, I mean, this is a really simple, easy build for you. I mean, all you got to do is just try your best to keep your dots up and just spam away with your spammable, and make sure to hit a light attack in between every ability. You know, if you're like me, I used to try people's like Alcas and Deltas's builds, and it just doesn't work for me. I just could never even hit above like 50k with their builds. I don't understand how their builds, how they end up doing so much damage for them. Maybe it's a skill issue, I don't know, but it just doesn't work for me, and that's why I started making these videos. If you're struggling, if you can't reach these thresholds that other players can using these other people's builds, my builds, I guarantee, will be able to get you to at least 80k, and that's only if you're bad at weaving and you know you're still working on your skill aspect of the game. I mean, these builds are very easy to use, and it's pretty hard to not get high damage with them. I mean, we can even do a quick test here of just simply light attacking. I mean, just simply light attacking, we're hitting 35k. We throw in a couple abilities. We could just use our spammable here and just light attack. I mean, come on, hitting 45k. So, as long as you keep your dots up, and I mean, you don't have to be perfect, you're gonna hit high damage. But that's all. My character looks badass. We all know that. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and thanks for watching. And hopefully this build helps you hit your damage goals and has just helped you in general. Peace out, guys.